to dhyana. Om. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters of the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows, the milker is the cowherd boy Krishna, Arjuna is the calf, and people of purified intellect are the drinkers. My salutations to the Lord, who is the bestower of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. Excuse me. And no, Nikki, that's not what it is. We just need to clear the throat. Okay. So we're in. Where are we? What chapter?
Chapter 6.
Yes, the yoga of
Meditation.
Very good. So we'll pick up at 13. So we come back again. Thank you for continuing. Obviously, the yoga of meditation is very important. We're putting a lot of effort into it, a lot of energy into it. So, and it's important. We chanted one of Swami Shivananda's favorite kirtans. Actually, Swami Shivananda wrote it with his whole life. He wrote it with his whole life, with the example of his life. He wrote it, and it's the teaching of yoga. It's the highest teaching, and it's in order, by the way. Mm-hmm. And this was the reason. So today's Guru Day, of course, Thursday, and also, so we honor the Guru, and the best way we can honor the Guru is to live in the way that the Guru guides us or inspires us to live. It's the best way. And how does the Guru, and the Guru is inside, the Guru is not outside, it's inside. Our own conscience guides us, but it's hard to hear, because we've got it, it's covered up with so much dross, much stuff. So, meditation chapter is number 6 for a reason. It's not the first chapter. In this age, we think we start with meditation, but actually, everything's meditation practice, but it's not seated. Serve, love, give, purify. So this is speaking of serving karma yoga, love, bhakti yoga, devotion. Give is also bhakti, but it's also Raja yoga, is it not? Self-surrender, surrender to Ishvara. Ishvara pranadana, is that not give?
Yeah.
And then purify is Raja yoga, right? We start with the yamas, niyamas. Where are we on the Monday sessions now?
Actually, we're still in book 1.
We're still in book?
Yes.
Yeah, of course, okay. We'll move to book 2 shortly.
Yes.
We're about there?
Try to skip some things.
Okay, very good.
Book 1 is very interesting. So.
It is. The theory is key. Yeah. Good. It's good. We don't have a lot of movement at this time, so it's good. It's good. It's healthy to do. But of course, the practices of Raja Yoga are Ashtanga. Ashtanga is 8 limb. It's not a type of yoga asanas. Contrary to some common notion. Ashtanga means the 8 limbs of yoga, of Raja Yoga, which start with the yamas and niyamas. Yamas are the don't do this, the moral precepts, and then the niyamas are the observances, including Ishvara pranadana, by the way, which is self-surrender. And then pratyahara, so the breath and pranayama, asana, pratyahara. and then the meditation. So now we come to meditation. And we're very much in meditation. Now Lord Krishna is teaching about meditation, but he took all of this time to teach us about the preparation for meditation first, which is an absolute requirement. Otherwise, we sit for meditation, we think we're meditating. We think we're meditating. It's very interesting. But of course, the experience isn't really meditation, right? Not without the preparation, because there's no end of disturbance. Somebody opens the door, somebody pours water outside, and there's just aggravation over it. And that's not meditation. Just so we know, Kartikeya. That's not meditation. It's not meditation. So here now teaching meditation, number 13 and 14. Let him firmly hold his body, head, and neck erect and still, gazing at the tip of his nose without looking around. Serene-minded, fearless, firm in the vow of Brahmacari, having controlled the mind, thinking of me, and balanced in mind, let him sit, having me as his supreme goal. So he's teaching the seated meditation practice here. And very specifically, the technique is Tritak meditation. We'll talk a little bit about Tritak meditation this morning. Did we have them in TTC?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm asking Anjaneya about the candle.
Yeah.
We did, right? Yeah, it's always there, but I was asking him because I wanted to get his experience with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was taught on an individual class, all the Kriyas, and that was the first.
And then that day,
yeah.
The day of the Kriyas was the day that, okay. And how did we set it up here? With you and Uma Devi being online, how did we set up the candle here?
Well, I think he didn't specifically go to the practice with us. I think he just described it. We did the neti pot and, some of the Anjali.
So did you practice it then?
But no, I have in the past, but I didn't that day.
Okay. Because if we were together there, then it would be practiced.
Okay.
We made a point of setting it up so that everybody could practice it and not be staring at each other. So we didn't practice, correct? So that's Tritak meditation. We'll take this commentary from Swami Venkatesananda and then talk a little bit about Tritak as well. And we want to have that practice in addition to japa. Here's what Swamiji says about this guidance. Let him firmly hold his body, head, and neck erect, etc. Says the body and mind are interrelated. So, body and mind are interrelated. So if the mind is unsteady, the body shakes too. And we see this. People that we meet whose eyes are darting around, right? Or whose hands like this or have to be moving, that actually is an indication of the mental state. And so too, if the body is moving, he says, then the body shakes too, as in anger. So if someone's angry, if the mental state is anger and the anger gets extreme, then the body gets involved in it, right? Do you experience that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, that strong urge to, sorry, you said?
And also fear.
And also fear, yeah. The body will shake in fear. And then finally become like a stone. but rigid, not soft, not pliant, not flexible, rigid like a stone. And then he says the body must be kept still. Sorry, if the body is agitated, the mind is not steady. So if the body is also moving, then the mind is not steady. This is why, Kate, you really want to make a practice. When you sit for meditation for 30 minutes, when you sit here, you resolve to yourself to sit here for 30 minutes and you don't move. And then you don't move. You don't get up. You don't. If some urge comes, you don't get up for it. You just sit. And the reason is because if the agitation will come in the mind, and then if we act upon the agitation, it doesn't make it any better. There's no meditation possible at that point, because now we're in this imaginary world again. And also, if we feel that urge and get up, then we interrupt it. So either way we go. And it has to do with resolving, just taking a resolve to do. And then do it. And it's a gift for yourself to do. It's not easy, but... So he says the body must be kept still in order that it may be forgotten and transcended. So as long as we're doing for the body, there's no forgetting the body. Does that make sense? So these bodily urges, as long as they come and we do for them, then there's no forgetting the body. Then we never forget the body. And the body is to be forgotten and transcended. You have to go beyond the body. You're not the body. And so what he shares here is so important. And we know we're in this very interesting time because we have this virus about and then all the anger and retribution and all of this in society today. And so nobody has the opportunity to forget their body. It's a terrible suffering, it's a terrible suffering. So, but you need to be able to. You need to be able to. It's the only way. And the funniest thing is the body in and of itself is inert. The body doesn't actually have any needs. This is all a replication of the mental activity and the mental state. As a pilgrim, I swear to you, the body never gets hungry. The body never has hunger. There is no hunger in the body. There is hunger in the mind, and it's fine because it can be a reminder of the care required for the body. But the body itself doesn't get hungry. And there's, how do you know? Because the body can be retrained. If someone fasts for 30 days, after some time, that hunger falls away. So it didn't exist in the body to begin with, you see. It's a habit. It's habitual. And we're so beholden to the habits that we can imagine and we can say, well, the body needs to eat 3 times a day or something like that, which is not so. A pilgrim will eat when food is offered, and the body, in training, then the body won't exhibit hunger. In fact, it'll never exhibit hunger again. There's just when food is offered, food is taken. It's just like that. So here food's offered twice a day, so it's taken. So he says what's very important and what's absolutely essential in this time. Because as long as the body is your master, there is no respite for you. There's no meditation for you. There's no respite for you. There's no rest for you as long as the body is the master. Because the body isn't really the master anyway. So it's an idea that's the master. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't live in a responsible way. So don't confuse the two. It doesn't mean that we don't serve. It doesn't mean that we're not aware. But it means that the body needs to be transcended. The body consciousness needs to be transcended. If we're to go higher or deeper, then the body consciousness has to be transcended. This body consciousness is the most gross consciousness of the different levels of consciousness. This is the most gross. So this is what meditation is about transcending the body consciousness, about going beyond it. So he says the erect posture is and still speaking of, so how to do the seated meditation. The erect posture is the natural one, though it's considered to be a special yogi posture on account of the distortion of our normal posture. In it, the vital force or prana flows smoothly, especially along the spine, thus ensuring equilibrium both of the body and the mind, which the prana links and enlivens. Nasika agra. Nasika agra is the practice that Krishna has given. Nasika agra is the original Sanskrit. He says in the original text, it may mean tip, root, or front of the nose. Yogis who study the Bhagavad Gita will argue over what Krishna is saying. Is he saying the root of the nose, which is here, or is he saying the tip of the nose? Usually in English it'll get translated as tip, sometimes it'll get translated as root. So it's either. The answer is it's either. Really it's Tritak. Sanskrit's a rich and flexible language, he says. Certain yogi claim that special psychic merits accrue from gazing at the tip or the root of the nose, which is the root, again, right here between the eyebrows. It's best to look directly in front of the nose at a symbol of God or a flame or a lamp. When you think of God and endeavor to visualize him within yourself, you will discover that the vision is abstracted, and therefore even the objects in front of you fade away. The important point is to sit without looking around. Once the desired concentration of mind and internal visualization of God have been achieved, then it matters little if the eyes are kept open or closed. The visualization is imagination. Imagination has image in. So imagination, he says, is based in the word imagination is image, to bring an image into the mind. Huh? Does that make sense, Kate? The word imagination is to bring an image into the mind. That's what it means. So, and in meditation practice, we're actually doing that. So we're using the imagination in order to bring something sacred, something holy into the mind as an object. And then we meditate upon it. We bring the awareness to it and focus on it. Looking at it inquiringly reveals the substance of which this image is made. If the visualization is dull, the result is nil. And then he speaks of Brahmacari, and we'll come back to this, Tritak. Brahmacari is one whose mind roams in God, or Brahman. So he's giving a literal translation of the word Brahmacari. Did you, I don't know if you read this when we got to this. I don't know if it was you or Paula. You read it, right? The common context of the word Brahmacari is abstinence, to keep continence, or to control one's urges, sexual urge specifically. That's the common concept of it, and it's very important. But really the meaning of the word is a much higher meaning than that, which is to have the mind roaming in God. In other words, Brahmacari, to be a Brahmacari means for the mind to never leave God. Nika Devi, how's that? For the mind to never leave God.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Brahmacari. To roam in God. roams in God. And where is God?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. So we had a funny moment 2 evenings ago with Hayan and family. His father, and his father studied harmonium, studied bhajan, classical Hindustani music for 18 years with a great teacher. And now it's many, many years on. So his father is 8, timeless, of course, but the body 85, something like that. Not much hearing anymore, but so present and such a beautiful soul. And so last night and the night before, last night we had satsang there, the night before we were visiting also satsang, just small group family satsang. And he was chanting something which had a romantic connotation. And he was talking about in the Hindustani song, the translation was that he was talking about your eyes give me peace. And Hayan said to his father, he was like correcting him. He said, Swami says that in order to have peace, you have to see God's eyes. And so I looked at Hayan and said, and whose eyes are those that you're looking out through? Got it? So how do you see God's eyes?
They ring.
Everywhere.
Well, so they also recognize.
You have to see
the
what's
outside.
here. You have to see what's here. You have to see what's here. So how do you see God's eyes? You're not going to have to look very far for them. If you can see. So Brahmacari is one whose mind is roaming in God. In other words, it's everywhere it is. So he says, although in a restricted sense it refers to continence, fearlessness is extolled because in deep contemplation, when one forgets the body, one is apt to be afraid of losing it. One whose goal is God is fearless and is prepared to sacrifice anything to reach him. That is the kind of fearlessness that's required in this time. Fearlessness does not mean, and we should not lose track of the goal, any of us. We should not forget. We should constantly remind ourselves. Fearlessness is not stupidity. Fearlessness does not, one who resides in the fearless state does not engage in himsa. And has an understanding of what that means, but is not concerned for themselves. Is not concerned for themselves. As long as we remain in body consciousness, then there's constant fear for oneself because one imagines oneself to be the body, right? That feeling is here, isn't it? The feeling is here that I am this body. So meditation practices help us to go beyond this feeling that I am this body. The one who actually achieves meditation has transcended the feeling that I am this body. Is it correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And doesn't even have a feeling that I am any body. Correct?
Right.
Yeah, it's transcended all of this. And so here Lord Krishna is giving the technique of meditation, how to do that. So first is serve, love, give, purify, required. And then we come to meditate. And here he's giving the technique of meditation. One more time. Let him firmly hold his body, head and neck erect and still, gazing at the tip of his nose without looking around. Gazing at the tip of the nose means keeping the gaze, whether eyes are open or eyes closed, at a single point. And best is visualizing the divinity in however we relate to it at that point. And then, what state are we wishing to be in? in this practice? What state are we wishing to be in this practice? Serene-minded, fearless, firm in the vow of a brahmachari. Now, brahmachari, there's a vow, which is I will. Is that what a vow is? What's a vow, Anjaneya?
A vow is a firm commitment you make
to yourself. Is it
within.
true? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your vow?
To meditate, realize.
Yeah. I mean, every one of you. You have to ask this question of yourself. What's your vow? There's no meditation if you don't have one. There's just constantly being tossed about by the senses and the sense objects. Something happens, right? And you get tossed by it. Is it so? Yeah, you have to stop it. Who's going to stop it for you, for God's sakes? Who's going to stop it for you? You want Swami to stop it? Who's going to stop it?
Us. Me.
Yeah, thank you. Me, I'm going to have to. And here we're being given the recipe for it. These two shlokas are the teaching of meditation. These two shlokas are the teaching of meditation, of the practice of meditation. I'd even advise during the day to read them again, to take some time with them. Because this is it. I mean, it continues, but these two are the essential teaching of the practice of meditation. So a vow of Brahmacharya. So what is a vow of Brahmacharya? Well, each of us have to work that out, but the guidance is, it's something like, dear Lord, I will see you everywhere. I will not complete until I know the truth, and I see the truth wherever I am, and I abide in the truth. Peace Pilgrim, her vow. I will live in peace, and I will share peace with all. So, there needs to be a vow. We're practicing yogis. Right? We're practicing yogis. Without a vow, there's no yoga. And it wants to be firm. Unshakable. Firm, unshakable vow doesn't mean firm, unshakable belief, by the way. You know, this is the way things are. Right? It speaks to the goal. Kartikeya.
Said, see nothing, look at nothing but your goal ever shining before you. The things that happen to us do not matter. What we become through them does. Each day, accept everything is coming from God. At night, get everything back into His hands.
Thank you, dear. So, serene-minded, fearless, firm in the vow of a brahmachari, having controlled the mind. So, the mind that tends to wander everywhere, having brought control to the mind, bringing the mind to a single point of focus, yes? Which is what we're working on all the time. Thinking of me. So it doesn't mean the form, although the form is a way to relate to me. He's speaking of the highest, thinking of me. And balanced in mind, equanimous, let him sit, having me as his supreme goal. By the way, for the yogis here and online, there's this book. We have 2 copies of it here. This book is Swami Satchidananda. It's Bihar school. The name of it is as big as the book. The name of it is A Systematic Course in the Ancient Tantric Techniques of Yoga and Kriya. So it sits in the library, and you, the two of you just coming out of TTC, you should be in this book every day. You should be in this book every day. If you really want to take your learning, what you've learned, it's just the tip, a little tiny tip of the iceberg. But it's also so much. And it's also so much, right? And if you're really wanting to serve in this way, in order to live it, be present with it, depending upon what is your vow, this is the most comprehensive, the best written course guide that there is in yoga. It's the best. Bihar school is known, when Swamis get together and talk about yoga techniques, etc., we talk about Bihar school. Because Bihar school is known as having the best course manuals of any of the lineages. You can pick up any of them. The English is absolutely impeccable. The techniques. So in here, in meditation, if you were to look at meditation, there's an index in the back. And it has an entire page of meditation practices here, and it walks through the various primary practices. We teach and practice japa, and it's really ajapa japa. Ajapa japa meaning, it's japa, we repeat the name of the Lord, we repeat a mantra in the mind in order to get the mind uplifted, to concentrate the mind, to pull it out of the gutter and to lift it up to the divine state. That's the reason we do it. It changes the nature of the mind. It said meditation, there's a lot of study now that shows that meditation changes the nature of the mind, changes the nature of the brain, right? So all of the meditation techniques do the same. Japa, what we practice, it does it. How does it do it? It replaces the mundane sensual thoughts with one thought, which repeats over and over again, which is this repetition of the mantra itself, the holy name. And the holy name vibrates at a much higher frequency than all of this other. And so it's uplifting, and it helps the mind to concentrate instead of going everywhere. Then it stays in one place, right? So our dear Sean is outside practicing japa right now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what does it do? Yes, big smile. So it changes the mental nature to ajapa. Ajapa is silence. It concentrates the mind, and finally this becomes a groove in the mind. And when it's a groove in the mind, it's not having to be repeated consciously anymore. It just repeats, and that's the experience of ajapa, or silence. So that's what we generally practice. But also in here, mauna practices, shuddhi. Speaking of chakras, this is just in the meditation. Anuloma Viloma is a meditation practice. Om chanting. Body awareness practice, which is a meditation practice. And then Nada yoga, which is the sound practice using sound as the focus of concentration. Reflection on a poem. And then Tritak. And Tritak is what Lord Krishna is teaching here. Tritak is focusing awareness. So meditation always is subject-object. The practice is subject-object. The experience is transcendence of subject-object. The practice is subject-object. The practice is the subject brings the awareness, the I brings the awareness to something. Focuses the awareness on it, right? So japa. The japa is an object. It's repeated over and over in the mind. It's a sound object, yes? You bring your awareness to it. Your awareness becomes focused on it. That's the deeper level of what's happening. And the awareness becomes steady. Through the practice, the awareness becomes steady. You are awareness. That subject, the object is the mantra repeating. Meditation itself is the collapse of this. Meditation itself is the loss of the object and the subject. The experience of meditation, that collapses. All of the meditation practices are the same in that way. Tritak is, in the case of Tritak, the object is not a sound vibration. The object is a visualization. And it can be a visualization of something physical outside, like the tip of the nose. And there we go. And if you're nose tip staring, then you bring, it looks funny, doesn't it, from the outside? Then you bring both eyes to this, and you see a V that forms in the center, and that's when the center is found. And then you hold that V. That's the nose tip staring practice. And then the root is the same, except a little more extreme, isn't it? There's Tritak of finding a point in space, and simply, which is a lot less crazy to the people that are walking along seeing you sit and meditate. So you find a point in space, and you bring the awareness to that point and focus on that. Or you find an image of God and you bring the awareness to that. And you can bring that awareness, that object that's out there, right here into the third eye. And then when it dissipates, you can refresh it. Open the eyes, bring the awareness back to it outside. Close the eyes, come back to it here in the third eye. And in time, as you get good at it, then you don't need to have it outside. It can be here. Candle staring, the practice that I was hoping that you practiced, that we should organize soon to practice together, is the same. You stare at it outside until, and the eyes, they start dripping, the tears start coming. You keep them open as long as you can stand it. And then you close them, and you bring that candle flame to the third eye, and you hold it there as long as you can, and then you open the eyes again and repeat. So these are all practices of Tritak, inner Tritak and outer Tritak. And what's the effect of them? It's the same. The more we can relate to the divinity, the better, instead of just a plain vanilla object. The more we can relate to the divinity, the better. Literally, whatever you bring the mind to, the mind becomes. If you're contemplating on compassion, the mind becomes compassionate. If you contemplate on Krishna, it takes time, of course, but if you contemplate on Krishna, then the mind becomes Krishna. The Brahmacari, the one who has the vow and then who actually lives in the state, the mind becomes divine. Oh. Okay, so we'll come back to this book we'll put back in the library. So there are two of them on that lower shelf, and really, it's a good one to have some familiarity with. It's quite something.
So coming back to this vow,
Yes.
I'm thinking the essence of the vow has to be the same for everyone, right? Is it just the words? We have the word.
Well, the essence of it's how we relate to it, because the psyches are different with every one of us. The psyche is different. So we have a different way of relating. So we can say that the essence is the same, just as the essence is the same in each of us. But our way of relating will have to be very personal.
That's right.
So universally we can say having a vow is essential. Right? Even in worldly life, having a goal is essential. Otherwise we just get tossed about. Is it so?
It is so.
Yeah. And it's also true then in spiritual life. Having that vow is absolutely essential. In the same way, it's not different. The vow will be different.
Right.
But the principle is the universal principle. It's the same. The mind has to have an object of focus. So in a worldly life, in business, for example, the object of focus is a particular goal. It may be a numeric, it may be relational, it may be something like that. And it needs to actually be visualized. It needs to be imagined to be able to be seen. And the more it can be seen, the more success will be at hand.
Right.
The one who actually sees the goal and resolves to themselves fully and completely, no matter what happens to achieve the goal, will always be successful, you see. Always be successful. We forget how many births, you have as many as it takes. So in time, we'll always be successful. The one who says, President of the United States, that's it, will always be successful. Eventually it'll happen. How many births, we don't know. But if you don't care, then you'll be successful. And in the same way in spiritual path, if you don't care, if being successful, if whatever is the vow, if that's more important than holding on to your physical life, then you're successful already. Right?
Yeah.
Because then it's just a matter of time. The universal laws support. This is the power of the mind. Okay, let's close with final prayers and arati. Page 174. And we should do the short one. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairakameva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairakameva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritata Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairakameva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritata Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, let us abide in Thee forever and ever. On below Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all the saints and sages of all traditions. Okay, let's stand for Arati.